Let's take a quick second to talk about shading models and what they mean to you inside of Unreal Engine. So by default, if we open up the content drawer and you've been following along, in the Material Editor Beginner Guide Material section, I did pre-make some of these shading model examples. But if you don't have the files or you haven't been following along, we can just make our own just to kind of explore them. So in Materials, let's just make a new material. I'm going to name this one M default. Let's call it shading model 01. So M underscore shading model 01. And when I open this up, one thing you notice is up until this point, if you've been following along in order, is that we've been making nodes. So I'm going to hold down 3 and left click to make a 3 constant. I'll connect this into the base color. And I'm just going to make it like a bluish color. And you'll notice that this object, if we look at the preview sphere, is responding as if it was something of solid material. Let's say that it was wood or plastic, but it's also responding to the light in a way that is pretty generic. Like you would imagine most items that are solid and not translucent or have parts you can see through. This is about what you would expect. Now, there's times in video games where we don't want this. We might want it to shade or differently. So let's go into the shading models. So if we are in the editor, let's just left click in the graph anywhere. Anytime we click on a node, the detail panel is for that node. Anytime we left click on the graph, we can see all the details about this particular material. And what you'll notice is that under this material section, we have shading model, and it will be default lit. And this is what it will always start as. You'll notice something that if I set this to unlit, what you'll notice is that this highlight, this shadow, those things are gonna kind of disappear. So let's go unlit. And you can see now my material has turned black. And the other thing that has happened as a lot of these output pins have been grayed out. And so now the only pins that will actually show an output are the ones that are still white. So instead of using base color, we now need to plug this into emissive color. And what you'll notice now is that we have an object whose entire surface is the exact same color. There is no shadow, there is no highlight. And this can be useful for various reasons, especially like in stylized games or anything that's cartoony. So another example we can look at a high level is subsurface. So we can, again, we see the pins have changed. We can hold down Alt and left click to break a pin. And what I want you to take a look at here is, let's imagine in a quick example that we set this to something like a skin-like color. So I'm just going to set this to a skin-like color. And you can notice we have our object here. And we also have subsurface color now. So if I copy Control-C, Control-V, this color node, and I plug this into subsurface color, and then let's say this is skin, so the subsurface color is a bit reddish because that we have blood and stuff underneath the skin. You'll notice that now they kind of get this softening effect. So as light comes through the object, on the back side, where it would be more shadowed, it would look more fake. We now actually get a little bit of that color. You can see if I change this to a blue color, again, that subsurface, the light penetrating through, is giving this a different look feel. And so we can talk about some of these other ones, pre-integrated skin, clear coat, hair. Basically what they are useful for, they are defined pretty well by their name. So there are specific shaders that Unreal has made for eyes, hairs, two-sided foliage, something we can talk about later. So I just wanted to give you an overview that the shading model is something that we can definitely change when we need particular properties and outputs based on the material we're creating.